Ladies and gentlemen, it was the last thing I saw on my phone before I went to bed last night. Dun, 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 Sean Diddy Combs arrested. And I was like, what? And it was crazy too, because I just covered the story about another woman came forward accusing him of sexual assault. Dawn, a member of the band Danity Kane, they were a part of the show Making the Band, then went on to produce other albums that did pretty well. I mean, the girls could sing, had a lot of potential. But as you guys know, there was this rumor going around for quite some time that Diddy wasn't paying people. So there's that too. You know, he start a project and just be like, okay, bye, that kind of thing. But this is worse than him not paying people. He has been officially arrested, ladies and gentlemen. And breaking news that I heard about this recently, the judge has announced that he will not award bail to Diddy. That is probably because he considers him to be a flight risk. Let's go ahead and get into this story. Breaking news.
Can we begin with this breaking news that federal indictment against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs was
See what happened here.
Sexual misconduct, sex trafficking here in court this morning. And
sorry.
Can we begin with this breaking news that federal indictment against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs was
I don't know why it's doing that. Let me come back out. And let me try again.
Arrest. But it comes after a year's worth of accusations against Combs, many laid out in lawsuits, including sexual misconduct, sex trafficking, and even distribution of illegal narcotics and firearms. His lawyers said in part he is an imperfect person, but he is not a criminal, and that they will fight these charges with all of his might and the full confidence of his lawyers. Joining us now, MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin, NBC Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley, and defense attorney Misty Maris. All right, Lisa, obviously this was just sealed, a 14-page indictment, a lot in here. What more do we know about the charges and the allegations here?
So, Anna, we know a number of things about the allegations, but I want to highlight a few things for you. One, today's indictment is solely against Sean Combs. But of course, the chief count is a racketeering conspiracy that alleges that Sean Combs used his businesses and a number of people that worked in and around him to essentially facilitate a commercial sex enterprise through which women were trafficked both internationally and interstate to serve his own sexual desires, including by pairing them, once they were plied with drugs he provided, with commercial male sex workers, then watching them and filming them have sexual intercourse with these people, and then to recover, then giving them forced IV fluids in a pattern that lasted between 2009 up through and including 2024. So
let's pause right there for a second, and I want to jump in. This is something I never really understood unless he's trying to blackmail these people. I never understood him recording these acts that took place, because obviously if someone were to report you, they could say, well, there's video evidence of this. And then all it takes is for Homeland Security or the FBI to raid your house and recover those videos, right? So this is similar to Jeffrey Epstein, where apparently there were videotapes, people were recorded. I think Epstein was using that to blackmail people. And I wonder if Diddy was using it as a sense of blackmail as well.
there's an allegation here about who was involved in this enterprise beyond Sean Combs, and that includes security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees who are engaged in that pattern that I just referred to with you, which the indictment refers to as a freak-off. The other thing I want to tell our viewers is that there is a victim here who's identified as victim one. There's also a separate victim who's not identified by a victim name and number, who is the victim of that transportation to engage in prostitution count. So there's at least two women here that the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York knows about and apparently has interviewed. And the third thing that I would just underscore for you is, in addition to the criminal penalties that Sean Combs could be facing, there are forfeiture allegations, which basically suggest that Sean Combs should give up any and all property, real and personal, that was derived from the proceeds he obtained from this long-standing alleged racketeering conspiracy. So look for the feds to seize property from Sean Combs, and at the end of this case, when and if it reaches its end, to insist that they can seize real property, bank accounts, and otherwise that are obtained for him through this enterprise.
So
this is probably, oh, shout out to Garland Nixon. Thank you for the super chat. Free the Huru 3. That's right. Thank you so much. This case right here in particular is probably making a number of people that are close to Diddy right now become very nervous, because notice what they said. He didn't do this alone. And they mentioned housekeepers, staff members, etc. But I'm thinking about some of the other celebrities that were very close to him. I'm thinking about someone like Jay-Z. I'm thinking about someone like Usher. I'm thinking about like all those other people that were pretty close to him, or maybe attended some of these parties. They're probably shaking in their boots right now and saying, well, damn, let me try to think. Am I on camera somewhere? Does he have something on me? Is there video footage that shows me present at one of these events, even though they may not have participated or done anything wrong? They're probably wondering, am I going to go down because Diddy went down? It's crazy stuff, man. Yeah, and I'm seeing the comments in the chat. Ashton Kutcher, Leonardo DiCaprio, like the number of people that were at those Diddy parties. Oof.
3 counts specifically: racketeering, conspiracy. Count 2 is sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. Count 3 is transportation to engage in prostitution. And you laid out many of the details and the allegations that back up each of those counts. I do want to read one quote that is quite disturbing, but I think gives you a greater sense of what was going on here. And it reads, for decades, Sean Combs, the defendant, abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. So, Lisa, does this mean other people could face charges beyond Sean Combs?
It does, or it means that other people may already be cooperating with prosecutors in their building of a case against Sean Combs. One thing, Anna, that I want to also highlight for you is that this would not be possible without a change in New York civil law called the Adult Survivors Act.
Oh, let me just push this. It's this video, guys.
Sean Combs. One thing, Anna, that I want to also highlight for you is that this would not be possible without a change in New York civil law called the Adult Survivors Act.
Yeah, so the Adult Survivors Act, that made it possible for people that had been victims of sexual abuse that are adults to come forward. I want to take you to the press conference that was announced this morning. Let me just close that panel for a second. Here we go. You are going to hear from one of the attorneys. So listen to this, because this is very damning evidence here. And to be very clear, I want you to know that Diddy being arrested, I have to ask myself, is he the one that was the leader here? Is he the ringleader, or is there someone that was above him that had Diddy doing, their bidding? I'm willing to believe that there was someone above P. Diddy, right? They usually don't go for the person at the top. They usually come after the person that is under the person at the top. I mean, look how long it took for them to bring in Jeffrey Epstein, right? And then in the end, who is the one that actually faced trial? It was Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein, killed, whatever you believe about that situation. But the reality is, I would not be surprised if there is one person that is above all of this, and Diddy is the one that is going to be the fall guy. Let's get into the press conference here. This was earlier this morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Damian Williams, and I'm the U.S. Attorney here in the Southern District of New York. Today, I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB.
So this explains why some of these artists that Diddy produced were like one-hit wonders or didn't produce a second album, or their careers kind of went nowhere. It seems like he was spending more of his time focusing on this than producing and helping these artists become, I guess, continue their careers. There's a number of artists you could just go down the list and say, what happened to this person? What happened to that person? What happened to, Diddy would introduce a new artist. They would have hit single after single, and then you wouldn't hear from these people again. And this was like a recurring thing. And I'm like, what, with the exception of Mary J. Blige, right? With the exception of her. And then I wonder how much she knows. I wonder how much some of these other people know that were a part of Bad Boy, and they're just being quiet, or they don't want to say anything because they don't want to be, dragged into this. Makes you wonder.
Which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair.
So we saw that in the Cassie video, the hotel video of Cassie in LA. We saw that on video ourselves.
On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee. As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance.
Monitoring their whereabouts? This is some crazy. And I want to take you back again to when Diddy was at Howard University. So this type of behavior wasn't new for people who knew about what happened at Howard University. There were there were witnesses that came forward that said they saw and watched him, beat his girlfriend at Howard University in front of other people. So it's not like this behavior started when he became like this mega, music mogul. People are saying he was doing some of this stuff prior to that status. So something to note.
Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse. The indictment also alleges other acts of violence undertaken by Combs and others, including violence against witnesses to his abuse, kidnapping, and arson. The indictment alleges that on more than one occasion, Combs carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten victims and witnesses. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. The indictment alleges that those individuals facilitated the freak-offs. They booked the hotel rooms and stocked them with the supplies, including drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. When the hotel rooms got damaged, they helped clean it up. They arranged for victims and commercial sex workers to travel for the freak-offs, and they delivered large quantities of cash to Combs to pay for the commercial sex workers. The indictment also alleges that they helped Combs cover up his crimes. During the March 2016 incident at the LA hotel that I mentioned earlier, a member of the hotel security staff intervened, and Combs attempted to bribe the staff member with a stack of cash to make sure that what happened was kept quiet. And as the indictment alleges, in late 2023, after public allegations were made about Combs's crimes, he and others pressured witnesses and victims to stay silent, including by making phone calls to witnesses and victims and giving them a false narrative of what they had experienced. And as alleged, Combs used others to help conceal his abuse by monitoring and preventing victims from leaving a location in order to hide their injuries, or by locating and contacting a victim who had attempted to flee.
This sounds like something straight out of a movie, like monitoring people, preventing them from leaving, kidnapping. It's crazy.
As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs's residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs's electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs, more than 1,000 bottles altogether. Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches.
Okay, I don't understand why it was necessary to talk about how many bottles of lubricant there were. Like, I find like, sorry, but I don't feel like that's really something that needs to be brought into this conversation. But I do want to show you this part here as well, because apparently one of the weapons had a serial number erased off of it. So if anything, this is probably what they're going to get him for, is the gun possession, the gun with the serial number erased. You'll see here.
As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well, we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced. Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there. Now, I want to be clear about 2 things. First, this office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York.
Sounds like you guys need to stop handing out keys, because you guys have given the wrong people keys to the city a couple of times.
Second, we are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly. Anyone with information can call 1-877-4HSI-TIP. I want to express my deep appreciation for the victims and witnesses who have used their voices and helped bring this criminal conduct to light. We would not be here without them.
We don't need to go into the list of thank yous, but I do want to add this as well. It's not just Diddy. There's a huge crackdown happening in New York City. I'm going to discuss more of this on Thursday about Mayor Adams, the police chief. There's a huge crackdown that's happening. I don't know what the hell is going on in New York, but we're going to dive into that. Roger Meadows sent me that information. It's pretty crazy. But one thing I want to add here, when he says that no one is above the law, you know, that he said no matter how powerful they are, that's BS, because they let Epstein get away with this for years, you know, and then they finally, you know, arrest him, and then poof, he's gone. And then all of the focus and blame is on Ghislaine Maxwell, when obviously she was not acting alone. The book of clients obviously has not been released. So if it doesn't matter how powerful someone is, why didn't they go after those clients that are in that black book? So whatever, dude. I get it that he has to say the rhetoric he's got to say to make it seem like, yeah, we're doing our job. We're out there. But the reality is the reason why this was brought forward was because of that New York Survivors Act. So that act basically said that even if you were an adult, you had until December of 2023, the end of December 2023, to file a claim if you were sexually abused. And that was when a number of women started coming forward. Now, in the case of Cassie, when she came forward at first, you know, it was her story against his. But then the videotape was released. And there were a number of you that said, oh, how is it all of a sudden they're able to get access to that hotel video now, but they weren't before? According to Cassie, she said that he had paid the hotel staff off not to release the video. However, that being said, I guess because of the lawsuit brought forward from Cassie, that pushed the feds to go to that hotel and request, you have to give me this, look for this video footage, etc. But I don't think this is just about like them trying to say, let's protect these women or let's help these women. I don't think it's really about that. I think that Diddy must have pissed off the wrong person. And I don't know who that person is. And I know a number of people have said, well, they believe Clive Davis kind of groomed Diddy. That could be true. Don't know. Never met Clive or Diddy. But it is really interesting that he was doing this from 2008 to 2024. And nobody, you know, there was no pressure from Homeland Security or the feds come forward, you know, come after him. Cassie is not the first person to accuse Diddy. It is the first case that has made tremendous national news, but she was not the first. There was a woman that said Diddy shot her in the face. This woman was on News Nation after Cassie came forward. She's reported this before. Why didn't Homeland Security raid him then? Think about these things, folks. So it tells me there's something else going on here that we may never know about, because they don't tell us everything. But I really do believe he pissed off the wrong person. Now, we will continue to, you know, follow the story and see what happens from here. But as of today, before I went live, the judge said that he is not allowing bail for Diddy. And I believe that's because he thinks that he's going to be a flight risk. So no bail for the diddler. Now, the question is, what happens to everybody else? Andre Harrell was also accused along with Diddy by one woman. So I wonder if they're going to go after him. But everybody that is close and tight with Diddy right now in that circle, if they were a part of this, they're probably pretty concerned. There is one woman who has been vocal about what she saw happen in the music industry and what has happened to her in the music industry. And her name is Jaguar Wright. And she has gone on to talk show after talk show, YouTube show after YouTube show for the past couple of years, trying to tell people what was happening in the music business and why she left it. And I remember at that time, people were like, this woman just wants attention. She's crazy. She just wants a story, yada, yada. But now we're starting to see some of the things that she said years ago, we're starting to see are true. Interesting. And you know what else is even more interesting? Kat tried to warn us all. Kat tried to warn us all.
It's God's side and the other side. And we don't care nothing about the other side. Period. Period. All of these big deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
All lies will be exposed. Whew. All right. Crazy, crazy times, ladies and gentlemen. Crazy times. Yeah. Stagger says, shout out to Kat. Yeah, he told us, right? He warned everybody. Crazy times, folks. Let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the super sticker, Bridget Denise. Thank you, Dimbe26. Love your work. You are doing a great job keeping us updated. Thank you. It's so interesting too, because according to Boule Roland Martin, according to him, I'm dumb. According to him, I don't know what I'm talking about, right? I told this dude, you're welcome to come on and have this conversation, but every time you run away, you hide behind a keyboard on Twitter. Crazy times. Gilbert said, why does he need illegal guns? It's a good question. Jay-Z, he'll get no prison. Luis, thank you. The New York Adult Survivor Act was only enacted for a year to allow the R case against Trump. And look what else they got. Statute of limitations should be removed for R across the board. Thank you so much, Luis. Skylar says, Danny D. Kane, Day 26, they just released the third album. Total, Carl Thomas, Black Rob, and countless others only got 1 or 2 albums from Bad Boy. It's interesting because Day 26 and Danny D. Kane have also come out in interviews criticizing Diddy not paying them what they were supposed to be paid. Interesting. Bill Bobby, Clive Davis put Diddy out onto all this. That's what a lot of people have said, I've heard that from people. And shout out to Sebastian Villa for becoming a Sabby member. Welcome. Whoop, whoop. Thank you, Social Emotional Learning. Get your freak on, get your freak off. Oh, man. That song by Missy Elliott will probably never be taken the same. Thank you, Troy. Lil Wayne said to watch out for people like Diddy. Yeah. A lot of times people don't want to listen to Lil Wayne because they're like, oh, he's drunk or high or something and he doesn't know what he's talking about. Listen, you listen to Lil Wayne talk sometimes in interviews. I don't care if he's drunk or high. You can tell he knows some things. You can tell he knows some things.